You probably don't look down when you walk. You're probably looking ahead. But maybe you should look down because the thing you're walking on is kind of amazing and tells an interesting story. Let's go for a walk. We're in Southwest Calgary today, walking from Mount Royal University to Signal Hill. This area is particularly interesting to me because of these. These stamps indicate the year the sidewalk was poured, and while these stamps are found all over the city, and probably your city too, here in this specific area, they're going to walk us through history. On this walk, I'll show you how the built environment has changed. We'll kick things off at Mount Royal University Station, walking by the Bella Concert Hall and Mount Royal University Library. Wait, but before we do, on this corner we see 3 dates. The curb cutout was poured in 2012. The sidewalk along leading to the library was poured in 2017. And the sidewalk that follows Richard Road in 1972. That's 52 years ago. We'll get into that history soon. But it's definitely not the oldest sidewalk we'll see on today's walk. I couldn't find a stamp on this wide sidewalk, but based on the aerial imagery, it seems to be from about 2003. While most of the paths we're walking on today are concrete, this one is asphalt, which is interesting to me given that it was added at the same time as the sidewalk we were just on. Of course, now it's all bumpy because of tree roots. Speaking of paths made bumpy by tree roots, this is a picture of me biking on Millrise Boulevard before the Fish Creek Lacombe station was built. I was upset because they were ruining my path because during the construction they ripped out the path and the trees, replacing it with a train station. That's a hard lesson learned. I'm not the only one who lives in the city. We're going to walk through Currie. You'll notice that after I cross into Currie, there is a slight improvement in the urbanism department. Tactile strips, aka truncated domes, aka those yellow bumps on the sidewalk ramps leading to the crosswalk. These tactile strips are a great example of the curb cut effect. Basically, something made for a specific population, probably a minority, that ends up benefiting everyone else in a perhaps unplanned way. These truncated domes aren't just great for people who have visual impairments, they're also great for waking up pedestrians who are chatting with a friend on the phone or otherwise distracted, letting them know, hey, wait, you're entering a crosswalk. The curb cutout on the MRU side of the street was poured in 2012, while this one on the Currie side was added in 2020. And this one was either added in 2018 or 2019. You'll notice it has a different style, one that you'll see throughout Currie. And of course, we know this design is better because it leads out to the crosswalk rather than diagonally into the intersection. Carrying on our little outing, we see some great human-centered planning with extended curbs. However, one thing that is regularly missed is extended curbs at mid-block crossings like this one. When we extend curbs, it prevents cars from parking here. People parking their cars here not only makes it impossible for people using mobility aids to cross at all, as well as people pushing strollers, pulling carts, people on bikes, etc., but it also reduces the visibility of other people crossing the street because they have to cross around and between vehicles. Interestingly, around the corner on Victoria Cross Boulevard, they have extended curbs, reducing parking and hosting signposts, which I love getting the signposts out of the middle of the sidewalk, but I wish they would have also extended this curb. Continuing with some dates. The sidewalk down the center here was poured in 2013. This patch was poured in 2017. Now we'll cross from Currie into Rutland Park. We're about to warp back into the past. This sidewalk was poured in 1957. That's 67 years old. This curb cutout was added in 2015. The city of Calgary has slowly been replacing steep curbs with these ramps. In 2022, the community of Marlborough was getting a bunch of these new curbs, complete with tactile strips. And the community has been around for 50 years already. Cities take a long time to build. The earliest curb cutout I found on this walk was from 1999, which means the city has been working on this for at least 25 years on this walk alone. The oldest stamp I found was from 1956. Let's talk about why we keep going in and out of the 20th century. Here we found a sidewalk made in 1972. This one in Currie was poured in 2013, and this one further from downtown was added in 1956. Let's take a look at the aerial imagery and find out what was going on here. Going all the way back to 1924 and 1926, we can see this area is farmland. You can see the city starting to approach, but it's still a patchy grid of short buildings. By 1948, post-World War II, we can see an airfield and a military base. The Canadian Forces Base was built here in the mid to late 1930s and slowly expanded over time. Come 1953, we can see the city of Calgary comes right up to the edge of the base, and with the 1957 imagery, we can see Rutland Park starting to take shape. That's where we found the 1956 sidewalk. While Mount Royal University was founded in 1910, we don't see it take place here until 1972 in the place of the old airfield. Looking at the aerial imagery, we can see how the airfield shaped the roads in the area. As we travel forward in time, we can see how the MRU campus grows and changes, eventually adding the Bella Concert Hall and the library. All while the Canadian Forces Base and barracks remain about the same, minus the airfield. You can see homes torn down in the 1980s to make way for this freeway, Crowchild Trail. You'll also see neighboring communities changing. And then, in 2008, we see change happening in Currie. Catch up to today, and we see even more change. Other sidewalk stamps we see include patches from 2003, 2022, 2007, 1958, 2006, 2008, and 1960. Eventually, Currie is supposed to look something like this. The single-family homes, the townhomes, the parks, the university, and the apartments are all quite different from the farm fields and military bases of the past. As I continued my walk up Richmond Road, I saw some tactical urbanism in the form of bikes stenciled onto the sidewalk. This was probably done to say, hey, people on bikes, just ride on the sidewalk. This road is kind of bananas. Now, I will note, riding on the sidewalk here is illegal. But also, this road is not fun or safe to ride on. Here, we see some patchy pedestrian islands. And look, a closed crosswalk. Because otherwise, the cars can't get through as fast. Another strange thing, the newest part is from 2020 on this pedestrian island, complete with tactile strips. But the older 2015 curb cutout was not given the same treatment while they were at it. This sidewalk here was poured in 1997, and the curb cutout was added in 1999. It's interesting seeing this history through just this one pedestrian island. The rest of this area has an interesting history too. Briefly, this was also used by the Canadian Forces from pre-World War I to the 1990s. The numbers on the hill represent 137th, 113th, 151st, and the 51st Battalions. And while the area around was built up, the numbers and the history remained. Our cities are constantly changing. While it takes a long time to build a city, looking back, it doesn't seem that long at all. While we preserve the history in things like street names, parks, and historic buildings, we can move forward, creating a better city for generations to come. And just maybe, some interesting stamps will remain, seen by more people as we create a more walkable city, a more humane city.